Hey you! Yeah, you! Have you ever wondered which abilities are the best and worst out of all of TDS? No? Welp, I'm gonna tell you anyway, so tough luck, Buster. Anyways, welcome back to another video, Violet Reapers. I've never really done a video like this before, but today we're going to be doing a tier list on every single ability for each tower in Tower Defense Simulator. So as you can see down here at the bottom, I've gathered up every single ability that is currently in the game right now, and we're going to be putting them from S to F tier, okay? Now, I'm not going to be doing any old abilities that used to be in the game, such as like the John ability or like the old cowboy ability. We're not doing that, okay? How I will be ranking each ability will be based on two factors, okay? Number one, how useful they are in games and to the team, and number two, how much better it actually makes the tower overall. So with all that said, let's get started with our first ability here for today, which is the newest ability that came out for the Ace Pilot, which is the Toggle Reverse ability. So this ability is gained straight from the get-go as soon as you place one Ace Pilot down right at level 0, and what this will do is make the direction of the plane go the opposite way it's going in its flying pattern. Now, the usage of this ability is pretty nice in getting a better position to hit more enemies that show up on the field, and it is very helpful in finishing off enemies that did not die from the first trip around that it takes. So if you're hitting a bunch of enemies and they just happen to have like 1 or 2 health left, just flip that baby around and kill them off. On the other hand, there are a few downsides to this ability as well. There is a 10-second cooldown that could mess up the momentum of the Ace Pilot if it's not timed correctly, but this is a pretty solid ability for the Ace Pilot in the early game. This ability also becomes quite unusable as more Ace Pilots get placed down, because pretty much it will start taking up more of the field anyways, so you won't even need to reverse it at all. So overall, I would say this is a pretty solid ability for Ace Pilot in the early game, but just remember that as you place more Ace Pilots, it doesn't really become that usable over time. So I would say this is a solid C tier. Again, this is a great ability, but just remember it doesn't really have much usage beyond like wave 10, okay? So next up on the list, we have the airdrop ability from Mercenary Base. So after upgrading your mercenary base for a bit, you will obtain this ability at level 5, so make sure to get your bread up. Now, one factor that slightly worsens this ability compared to other abilities in the game is that it costs 2,500 to do this ability. But I mean, money would already be very high by the time you get a mercenary base to level 5, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. This ability will spawn a bunch of mercenaries at a set location anywhere on the track. So if you have like leaks coming in and it's like very close to the end of the map, you could just place those suckers down and then say goodbye. I would highly recommend to pair this ability up with riot guards, because if you place them down against a leak or any big enemy that's coming your way, this will just straight up shred the enemy right from the get-go, so you don't have to worry about any riflemen shooting. It just straight up kills them, okay? Another slight downside of this ability is that it is not completely necessary for the tower to be good, since it already spawns them anyways, so this could just be used as either like a backup or like a big heavy hitting attack against a big enemy or a big boss. I would say this ability is very versatile in matches because it can be used effectively in almost any scenario and it will be really good, except for flying enemies, but you know, we have other towers to deal with that. To conclude, I would say this is a very strong ability in the game for many different situations, and it makes the tower a lot more useful to use. So with that reasoning, I'm going to put it straight into A tier. Next up on this list, we have the airstrike ability from the military base. When you upgrade the military base to level 4, that's when you obtain this ability. Like it suggests in the name, it will drop several bombs on a set location anywhere on the track, and the damage of these bombs start off at 450 and will increase all the way up to 750 when the military base reaches level 5. So that's really dang good when you're going up against enemies such as like breakers or giant bosses. It will do some pretty hefty damage. I would say this ability is best used against crowds, breakers, leads, and flying enemies, so it's pretty versatile in what you can use it against. It is not very effective against big bosses though, so keep that in mind, like the Fallen King, just any of the final bosses, it's not really that good. You would rather just use a heavy damage tower such as like Accelerator or Engineer to deal with them instead. So ultimately, the airstrike is pretty effective and gives players another motive to upgrade the military base. It's not like the most crazy thing in the world, but it does get some stuff done. With that said, I think I'm going to put this in B tier. I was thinking of putting it in A tier at first, but I think there's going to be some other abilities later on that are going to be better than this, so that's why I'm going to put it solidly in B tier. Alright, so the next ability we got in the list is the Beehive Grenade from the Swarmer. This ability is obtained when Swarmer reaches level 4, which is not that bad because when Swarmer reaches level 4, the total price is $2,550. So along with the tower itself, the ability on the side is pretty nice. When you use this ability, a beehive is thrown that explodes and spreads bees across multiple enemies. This ability does sound good at first, but don't be fooled. This ability has lots of problems. First off, it has very low strength from its explosion, only dealing 10 damage? What is that gonna kill? Like a normal zombie? Second, the splash for the bees is not that good either, since multiple swarmers can easily spread tons of bees when set to random anyway, so you don't really need this ability at all. The only situation there where I think it's actually kind of good is like really early game enemies, such as like normals and speedies, which is not that useful. Other than that, there's not really much that's going here for the ability. I mean, you can use it for a better usage when the tower is maxed out for the strongest bees, but even then, it's still, like I said earlier, you don't really need it, because they already do it automatically. This is more of just like an extra option, just in case you want to get just a little more bees in the mix, but I don't know. I think it's overall just doesn't make the tower better in any way, and it is only really used to kill a few enemies. So with that said, I'm putting this thing straight into F tier. It's not good. Paradoxum, if you ever rework the Swarmer, please change this ability. I am begging you. Next up on the list, we got the Call to Arms ability from the Commander. This ability is obtained very early on when the Commander reaches level 2. Like everyone knows, this ability boosts the fire rate of every tower in its range by a percentage, and this percentage will increase as the Commander continues to level up. When the ability is obtained at level 2, it starts off at a fire rate buff of 15% and increases all the way up to 30% with level 4. In order to get the most effective buff with this ability, the Commander greatly pairs with DJ to make the range the best it can be to hit the most towers on the field it can. If you have multiple Commanders on the field, it is greatly used to chain the abilities back to back so the fire rate buff never ends. This ability is one of the best in the game and is essential for pretty much every strategy that you can think of, which is one of the sole reasons why people bring it in the first place. You can't beat modes such as Hardcore or Polluted Wastelands without this. It's like praised by the community. With no hesitation, I'm putting this straight into S tier all day, every day. Best ability in the game, hands down. Speaking of Commander, the next ability up on the list that we have here is the Support Caravan ability. Unlike Commander's Call to Arms ability, the Support Caravan ability is obtained at level 4 and costs $2,000 to activate, so make sure you get your bread up, buddy. When this is bought, it will spawn 3 APC vehicles at the exit. 2 of them are gunner APCs with 250 health each, and 1 of them is a missile APC with 400 health. Now, how much damage do these suckers really do? Well, each gunner APC deals 50 DPS, while the missile APC deals 100 DPS, ultimately adding up to be 200 DPS on the field. That's pretty dang good. You do have to be a little careful when using this because it has trouble staying alive due to the lower health, plus the cooldown is pretty long at a whole minute, so make sure to pick your correct moment to strike. One fun effective usage of this ability is when it's spammed with 3 or more commanders, since it racks up tons of DPS all at once on the field. Just make sure to get a good investment beforehand, because it does cost several racks to pull this off. I think this is a pretty good ability, and it makes the last level of Commander a better investment towards unlocking, which is why I'm feeling a solid B tier. Alright, next up on the list, we got the Equip Bomb ability from Jester. As soon as you place a Jester down, this ability is gained straight from the get-go at level 0. And what this will do is, it's pretty simple, it will just switch the type of bomb to the current one that you have selected on the side panel. I don't know about y'all, but I think this ability is pretty useless because it happens automatically when a bomb is thrown anyway, so you don't even have to do it. There could be an argument made that it was an emergency and you just need to have that one specific bomb, but still, like, on the last level, it'll be cycling through the bombs anyway, so you don't really need it at all. There is just no scenario where it would be necessary, and it does not do anything to improve the Jester much at all. That's why this ability is going straight into the F tier category. You do not need to use this ability at all to make Jester good. Next up on the list, we have the Frost Grenade ability from the Freezer. So this ability is gained when you get the Freezer to level 4, and it will make the Freezer throw a grenade that freezes up to 5 enemies in its range on impact, which is fine, but it's not anything too special. This ability has a cooldown of 25 seconds, which makes freezing groups less efficient, so you're gonna have to put down quite a few freezers on the field to spam a lot of these abilities. Even then, it is not that useful due to the low amount of enemies frozen on the field at one time. Your best bet is to use it in emergency scenarios against big threats such as the tank or the speedy boss. Also, it is heavily outclassed by other freezing and stunning towers such as Frost Blaster or Brawler, so if you have any other towers like this, don't use Freezer. It's better to use a more effective tower that's like that. At the end of the day, the Frost Grenade is still a decent ability that has a couple of uses, but it's not completely trash. So with that said, I'm gonna put the Frost Grenade in D tier. It's definitely not down here with any of this trash down here with Swarmer. Moving right along, we now have the Raise the Dead ability from Necromancer. Since this is Necromancer's main mechanic, it is automatically obtained straight from the get-go at level 0 onwards. As the Necromancer places more and more graves onto your field, you can activate this ability and summon several skeleton minions from those graves. So the first few levels of the Necromancer have weaker skeletons with 30 health that can prevent some leaks and do some solid damage. But the final level is where the spawns truly shine with skeleton knights, hollow guards, and executioner skeletons. Keep in mind that the Necromancer will also start creating graves a lot faster for more of your skeletons as the Necromancer levels up. This ability is best used against big threats, final bosses, breakers, leaks. There's just so much stuff to choose from that you could try and prevent with this ability. Don't let those hooligans try and tell you wrong. Just spawn a few of them executioner skeletons and you're good to go. So finally, I would say this is a very strong ability with unique uses and very fun to play around with in matches. I just love this ability so much, which is why I am sticking this ability straight into A tier. Next up, we got another classic here on the list, which is the Cleansing ability from the Medic. The Medic will obtain this ability once you reach it to level 5, and upon using this, you will remove any and all stuns upon every tower that is within the Medic's range. Like I mentioned previously with Commander's Call to Arms ability, it is helpful having multiple Medics on the field to guarantee that you are protected against back-to-back stuns. When you're playing game modes such as Hardcore, Polluted Wastelands, Badlands, this is a saving grace for helping you complete that mode. Without having Medic by your side, it makes the stuns very brutal to deal with in those matches. Please remember that you do not have to use Medic all the time, but it is game defining when it is used. Putting this on the tier list, this is an extremely effective ability and is the sole reason why people even bring Medic in the first place. Like, without the ability, Medic would be kinda useless, not gonna lie. We are about to put Medic's ability straight into S tier, baby, all day, every day. One of the best abilities in the game, hands down. There could be an argument said that this should be an A tier instead, but I think it deserves the S tier, man. I mean, this is the only counter in the game that we have to any sort of stuns. So now we only got 2 abilities here left on the tier list, and our next one is the more recent reposition ability from the Brawler. You will obtain this ability as soon as you get the Brawler to level 4, and this will make the Brawler leap to a selected part anywhere on the map, and it will cause a shockwave to occur. So, this shockwave has a solid area damage that starts off at 100 on level 4 and increases to 200 on level 5. What truly defines this ability though is how the shockwave stuns all enemies in its radius and knocks any enemies backward near the Brawler's landing position, which is really nice. We've never had that before on any tower. Another factor to consider is that being able to move the Brawler to a different position makes him a tier higher compared to other melee towers in the game, having that mobility factor instead of just selling any other melee towers. It doesn't matter which point in the game you're in, this can be used very effectively in almost any scenario in the game, whether you're dealing with breakers, big bosses, hidden, flying enemies. One downside that this ability experiences is that it cannot be used against any lead enemies, so lead balloons are pretty much out of the picture for dealing with stuff. This is overall a really strong ability that makes the Brawler stand out as a jack of all trades for any situation in the game. It's just so balanced, and that's why I am putting it straight into A tier, baby. Really solid ability. Alright, so the last ability that we have here on the list today is the Warrior's Call ability from the Gladiator. Once the Gladiator reaches level 3, the Warrior's Call will be obtained along with it, which will boost the swing rate of the Gladiator by 35%. Now upon seeing this, this is like a mini call to arms ability that is gained from the commander, right? However, there's a few drawbacks that come along with this ability. Before it gains this buff, it cannot attack for a few seconds, which is dangerous for allowing enemies to just slip by as we're waiting for this ability. Make sure to time the ability before any enemies show up because it is essential for getting any value. Another drawback is that after having more gladiators and other towers placed in the field, the ability starts to get used less and less because you already have more and more value. You don't really need to use it anymore. I would say it has a great combo with the Commander's Call to Arms ability at the same time of using this ability to get a huge boost in DPS collectively. Having a max commander do a call to arms ability plus the warrior call ability from the gladiator makes an 85% fire rate buff. That's freaking crazy. So overall, I would say this is a pretty nice ability, but it does have some drawbacks that make it less reliable than other abilities in the game. This might be a little bit of a surprise, but I'm actually putting this ability in C tier, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's pretty good, but I just don't think it really compares with other abilities. Like, you would rather use something like an airstrike or an airdrop to get rid of enemies easier rather than using this. Again, there's some good uses with this ability, but I don't think it really compares with some other really nice abilities up here. Well, there you have it, everybody. My TDS ability tier list. Every ability in the game ranked. Let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree. This video was a lot of fun to put together and I really enjoyed making this. So if this video gets a lot of traction, I will continue making more of these. Y'all want some more tier lists? I got y'all. Anyways, I hope y'all have a good day and stay strong, Violet Reapers.
Killer fish from San Diego, San Diego, San Diego. Killer fish from San Diego, San Diego, San Diego. Killer fish, San Diego.